So I think the way I think about this, I don't think it's ever been that the idea came first and then the decision to do it. I think there was always, I think the first thing that comes up is the fact that you want to do this, that you want to you want to go ahead and you want to start something. I don't think I've seen companies that have come up with, they've started and it's the idea and they've nailed it down before they kick it off. Because the more I've thought that through and more I've seen, the idea always goes through a massive change, which we also went through. So I don't think it's the idea. I think it's the intent of saying, all right, I'm willing to give up a lot. I'm willing to go through this grind, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this. So I think that came first. Then the idea is again, it's an evolution, right? You evolve to say, hey, I think mobile platforms are going to be large. What can I do in the mobile platforms? I have deep, you only can think in areas where you have some understanding. In areas which you don't understand, real estate, you can't even come up and say, all right, I'm going to go do something in real estate. It's a little tough because you don't understand it. So obviously I understood internet and I understood I didn't understand mobile so much. I understand it a little bit, but I understood the massive trend that mobile was essentially going to drive. And I think it was then these, I would call them small step evolutions that lead you to your idea. And the evolution could be, oh, should I do this on SMS? Should I move to, erstwhile web platform and then move it to the application platform? And those are all, I would say, movements. And so my first idea, and so this is how, at least how I think the evolution essentially happens. I think the next question that you're asking is more around, okay, what made you pivot?
Yeah.
What made you give up something, frankly, and pivot is then restart something else. And I think somewhere if you are able to project and figure out that if what you're thinking, if it's not even in a scenario where you will be successful, it's not going to be massively interesting, then it's certainly not going to be massively interesting for sure, because the probability of that happening is anyway low. Now, even if in full probability it's not going to be large. So that's what happened to our first idea, was to say, hey, it's a very good idea, it's a very good business, but it's not going to be a large business. And it was very important for us, and it's been one of our ethos to say, let's build something big. And it wasn't, fulfilling that basic need with which I think I actually got into the whole entrepreneurship, was to say, hey, is the world creating something large, especially from India? Is it only restricted to the select few of the Tatas and the Ambanis and the Birlas who did and went through their own way of building these things? But in today's world, a large part of the population essentially imagines only those kind of people to be able to do those large things. And so can I do something large? And so that became a very important ethos into the whole picture of saying, okay, hey, I want to do something large. And so, and so therefore that idea wasn't ever going to be large. And therefore the thought of giving it up was, came up. And I think from the thought of it giving up and to actually giving it up, that's a very hard one. And we can also talk about that, but that's a hard one to say, all right, let's close doors on this. That means close doors on this, and let's move on to something which is more interesting, because the more you linger on it, the more time you spend on thinking about that, the time's running away. And so you have to go clean cut. And we did that, and I'm glad we did it. The first model of Inmobi, and at that time it was called mCoj, was to essentially create a text message based advertising platform. And the more you thought about creating a text messaging based advertising platform, because text message is did not have strong linkage to to a more deeper engagement. You can't, like, from text message, go deeper into text messages. It became important that we created a deals platform on text messaging. So effectively, the idea was to essentially go around, collect deals from local merchants, and showcase it to people based on their location, where they are available. No, it's not a bad idea, by the way. Groupon essentially did this. They didn't do it on the text messaging platform. They did it on more on the, the email-based normal internet. And so therefore, when we tried to do it on the text message, we realized that we were having a very hard time because of lack of interactivity between the merchants and consumers, and inability to have constant interaction. There was no way to figure out whether you're delivering something useful or to either party or not, because there was no feedback. And so you realize that you are essentially becoming like an aggregation player, which can be disintermediated very, very quickly if you don't build an IP. So we were not building an IP. An IP is, all right, as a consumer, here are the things that you like. I didn't have that IP. He's a good merchant or a bad merchant, right? Or he's an okay merchant. I didn't have that IP. If you don't have IP in the business, then the business can be very easily, moved over to something different. So therefore, we gave it up. And we said, look, we have understood enough that mobile is going to be a large platform. We've understood that any medium that needs to grow requires advertising as a very important pillar for that medium to grow, to become large. So therefore, why not actually think about mobile advertising, because it seems that the application ecosystem might actually take off. It was in its infancy in those days, and so therefore that was a big bet. But our bet wasn't that off, because we said, look, we are taking the bet in developing markets to begin with, and not in developed markets, because to be able to say that mobile will become the first device in a developed market back in 2008 wasn't that easy. It was a pretty, it would have been a stretch to say that. So we went in after the developing markets and said, okay, in the developing markets, surely PC is not going to be the king, and so it'll be some form of a pretty smart device. Seems like the iPhone is starting to create that trend, so why not actually go for it in this market? And that probably was the evolution. If you actually think about it at an abstraction, the second business model, it was an evolution of the first business model. It's not as if we were doing A and now we are doing Z. It was not that different, but it was on a different medium. Mobile was still there, but it was still on the more internet. It was using not SMS as an inventory or as a way to essentially do distribution of the messages, but was using application as a way to essentially do advertising. So yes, there were differences, but an abstraction was very similar. And so, probably in that way to figure out, we had become very good at understanding advertising, and we utilized and we built that into the new business model, and we applied it into a new business model. And suddenly, that business model had a far higher growth curve. Not that we could predict it to begin with, and but you could see it. Now again, from a data point perspective, to be able to say that, look, the first business wouldn't be successful, it was, are you creating an IP? And if you're not creating an IP, then the businesses, at least I don't believe that we can build large businesses. And so lack of creation of IP was a big data point for us. In the second business, or the second evolution of the business, we have a huge IP. And therefore you continue to grow, and there are network effects. There was no network effect in the first one. There are network effects, there is IP creation, and you have a global business that you can create, which also could have been true in the first one, but certainly in this case it's far easier to make that happen. Inmobi is one of the world's largest advertising platforms. We do advertising on mobile devices using the app developers, using real estate inside different applications that we have. And the kind of advertising that we do ranges from the traditional, advertising that creates awareness to our latest, launch of a new dimension of advertising, which is discovery advertising, which is called MEEP. And this discovery advertising is where I think the advertising is moving to in the world of mobile, because mobile allows you, all the mediums in the past allowed you to essentially, they couldn't close the loop. Mobile allows you to close the loop. People essentially use advertising to create leads, high quality leads. When you can close the loop, that's the highest quality lead. And so with Meep as a platform, with discovery commerce as a mechanism, our new world of advertising has a lot to do with discovery than creating awareness. So we are, again, to summarize, we are one of the largest advertising platforms on the planet. We show advertising to over 1 billion people very, very regularly. And we influence their decisions. And so we think we have a huge power on influencing decisions of newer products and newer services in the world. The process is very simple. Get the best set of people, make a small team, put them together, and let them iterate. You cannot anymore have the classical business school model of product development where you lay out the full Gantt chart on A to Z steps and go through those steps by monitoring time and progress. You actually don't know what you're building in the new the new world of technology. It's all about iterations, and you don't know when you'll get success. So you may hit something in 3 weeks, or you may not hit something for 3 months, or you may not hit something for the next 2 years. But so it's a process. So the process is iteration. The process is experimentation. And so therefore you have to put smart people, put them in small teams, move them away from any, we don't have any large team. And the process of experimentation and evolution of newer things has to happen in every team. So keep small teams, let them experiment, let them fail. And that's it. You'll come up with something, hopefully. And you got to just hope for that to happen. There are the different phases have had their own set of challenges, right? The first phase, was always about, absolutely first phase was always about survival. Like, can I survive today? Right? So every day you kind of sit there and say, okay, we're going to shut tomorrow. And so you do anything and everything to survive. And if you can survive that phase, and we survived, and you're gritty, and you do anything and everything to make things happen. You get to the next stage, and the next stage essentially around is now you have some capital, and the end of that first stage is basically capital, and a capital you'll get only when you have a product market fit, seemingly. So generally, Series A, Series B kind of model will tell you, all right, you're there. Then you enter the next phase, where the next phase is all about, post survival. You're now thinking of scaling, and scaling had few dimensions at which you have to think about. One is making short-term versus longer-term decisions, because they are not, you're not yet sure whether you're truly long-term yet or not, right? So that's one. Second is, you're also not absolutely a small company where, as a founder, you control everything. So there is a huge dilemma where you don't know whether you can let go or not. So you have to start learning to let go, where decisions are not controlled by you anymore, and somebody else will make the decision, and that's a big, massive phase that one has to go through. And so the challenge there is to let others make decisions, find the right framework of making short-term versus long-term decisions. But and the end of that also is when you figure out your product is getting far higher adoption, and you also have you also get to capital, and so and the capital to support you for that massive growth. So you get to the third phase. In the third phase, where our biggest struggle was to say, how do I keep the culture of the company entrepreneurial? Because in the first two phases, it was entrepreneurial because the team was small, everything was small, and so you could create. The whole environment was innovative, experimentative. Things were moving fast, turned around, everything. Suddenly, you are a larger company of 1,000 people, and now your struggle is to say, okay, what's the right way for me to create the environment in which to do so? And by the way, till that point of time, you actually don't even care about those things because you think everybody knows you. They exactly, will figure out, what you're thinking, where we are headed. They should be equally excited as I am. But you know what? Suddenly 1,000 people have come in. 800 of them have never even talked to you. Then, they've seen you like twice. So they have no idea. But you don't know this. And so the third phase is about, building a culture which then leads to innovation, experimentation, the values that you've had in the first two phases, which you were directly able to, put into the system, which is like, for us, it was, let's continue to think big. Let's think differently. Let's be entrepreneurial. Let's take certain risks. How do you tell people those things, right? How do you still have an engine of 1,000 people do the same things? And so you spend a lot of time trying to do that. At the same time, you have to also innovate on the product. Now your innovation of the product has to be far more fundamental. And you can't do everything yourself anymore. So, the creation of that environment becomes the biggest challenge. And yeah, those are the set of challenges that, we probably have faced. And, there are obviously second order challenges, but at the highest order, that's what I would say. I think as entrepreneurs, we have a much tighter control, or the culture is, there is always a culture, by the way. You haven't defined it. And it's okay, by the way, when the company is very small, because, people can feel the culture. The challenge starts to happen at a point of time when you are about 200 odd people, 100 to 200 people, when the direct connect of I would say the founding team, the early members of the founding team, or whatever, those 10, 15 people, they start to lose connect with the group. And that group then is, you would like to feel and believe that group is very well connected to you. And so therefore, you lose connect with that group. And that's when the disturbance starts to happen. And a lot of companies don't grow massively at that stage because, people say, okay, we need adult supervision, we need this and that. Actually, you don't. You just have lost your control on the culture. And in Inmobi, we went through a tough phase because, we moved from 200 people where we had very strong connect with those 200 people to 1,000 people in like a year. And suddenly, as you reach the 1,000 people, these 200 weren't sure why you went to 1,000 people, because you didn't do the right things like communicating with them, telling them what the plan is, like basic things. We just didn't do it. So out of the 200, maybe 100 left. Now you had 100 people and 900 new people. Those 900 new people had no idea what this company was all about. So they came in, you didn't have systems of training them, and they tried to do things themselves. And the system didn't move for a whole year. That's when we had to basically say, all right, what were the core values that we really wanted? And we defined our core values. The core values were largely hinging on the fact that, look, we have always believed in trusting our people. We have always believed that, we have hired great people, therefore we can trust them. We always wanted an environment which is entrepreneurial and risk-taking. What we are ourselves is we enjoy freedom, but we are responsible about that freedom. We are very passionate, so let's have a passionate environment. Now, those things are very easy to say. I can put them on a wall and, is that what culture is? No. Culture is when the way people deal with things on a day-on-day basis, they feel the same things and they can see it in action. And so what did that mean? That meant that we had to go back and look at everything. So while we said this, when we looked at how things were getting operated, they were completely at opposite ends. Like we would have very simple things, right? We talked about trust and we talked about being entrepreneurial. We didn't trust our people with travel. We had travel policies. Well, why do you need travel policies? Like when you called out trust as a very important factor in the whole thing. Well, because what if we lose money? Well, didn't you just contradict yourself? On one hand, you want to trust your people, and then you really don't want to trust your people because you're saying two different things, right? I said, all right, if you're saying trust, here's what happens. No travel policy. We'll trust the people. We had policies like leave policy. You trust people, no leave policy. They can take leave when they want. We wanted to create an entrepreneurial environment. Okay? You want to create an entrepreneurial environment, but you know what you're doing? Every quarter, you're judging your people based on what they say they will do and versus they did it or not. In an entrepreneurial environment where you're trusting people, they're trying to create new things. That's what entrepreneurship is all about, create new things. That means they don't know that thing at the beginning of the quarter. But you just wanted to judge them against what they said. That's contradictory to the entrepreneurial environment and taking risks. So how can you even judge them? So let's stop judging. So we stopped judging people and or monitoring what they said and whether they did it or not. We said, as a team, go do something great. But then they had their bonuses linked to that. And when you link bonus also to judging them, it goes to the next level and say, all right, we take the bonuses out. Everybody will get paid 100%. And that unlocked massive amount of potential in people, because suddenly those massive amount of people were able to think freely. In fact, the managers loved it because the managers didn't have to bother about those dreaded 3 weeks where they would have to sit and rate people what they did and how they did, and then go and communicate to them to say, you didn't do well here because you told me this but you didn't do this, and by the way, because of this I'm going to only pay you 73% of the bonus. Like, the whole objective gets lost. By the way, in all of this, we didn't want to lose the fact that there is growth of people which is involved, and so therefore we said, while I won't judge you, while I won't hamper your pay, I'm going to really care about your growth, because one of the things everybody wants in life is growth. So, and in order to do growth, it's not done through, just because I have a performance management system. The archaic performance management systems just didn't provide true growth to people. So we threw all the softwares out, and we said, the only performance management system we'll have is a blank sheet of paper where the manager and you will sit across each other and talk about what I should do to become better. That could include things outside of work also. And we did a lot of things because we really cared for people's growth. We had things like learning wallet. It's like we gave people $800 to $1,000, and we said, go and learn anything you like. And it had nothing to do with only work. So people have learned scuba diving, people have learned baking, horse riding, because the belief is great environments and positive mindset is far more important than the specific of what they learned. And so if they feel good about themselves, they feel that they're growing, they will come back and contribute much better. And so we did many such things within the company. For example, we used to be hiring for every open position, we would hire from outside. Why do you want to hire from outside? Well, we're not sure why. Aren't you trusting your own people? No, I think there is great talent outside. Oh, 1 second. So that means you're saying we don't have great talent inside? No, we have great talent inside. So why aren't you hiring from inside? Okay. Here's a policy we'll make. For every new position that opens in the company, there is an unrestricted access to anyone in the company to apply for that position and go through an interview process. And if he goes through, there is nothing that can stop him from taking that position. There's a whole notion in the world today to say, hey, if I want to grow, I should jump companies. Why? Don't I have enough things to do? And so, for example, in the last, I think 9-12 months or so, I would say about 80% of the new positions get filled by existing people, and then what they left is what gets opened up, and then you hire from outside. It's brilliant because people are seeing growth inside. There are people who are in HR move to business side, people in finance who move to some business, and in product to business. Like, people are moving around because today's people, unlike the 20 years ago, where somebody would stick onto their job for 10 years, the life cycle of a job, of a role, not a job, of a role is 12 months. So people want to move on to something more exciting. That's the new order, that's the new order. So let them create this internally. And I think based on all of this, and there are a few more things, it has created an environment which is, the output of which is not something that you can say, okay, this is leading to this. But the environment gives you output which you cannot even fathom. And I think that's what's happening today, where people are creating a lot of these newer platforms. We just launched Meep. It was a creation of people who wanted to create it. It's not that there was a top-down mandate to create it. No. And there are, by the way, 10 more things that are happening right now, which I think will fundamentally change the landscape of advertising. It's all happening from India. It's been done by people who have never done this before. And so you just have to create the environment. So therefore, I know I gave a long-winded answer to your question, but it's so core to us right now. It's like you got to fix your culture. You got to get it right. Once you get it right, then you got to hold on to it. And I think we are in that holding stage right now. Obviously, there are things and areas to improve, but that becomes the most critical piece for us now. It's hard to call out an event, but I'll give you like series of symptoms, which is where what was causing to say, look, I got to step back and relook at the situation. You suddenly grow from 200 to 1,000 people, so you expect yourself to grow 5 times. You expect yourself to move at 5 times the pace. And suddenly you find yourself moving at 1/5 the pace. Now, how do you figure out pace? You kind of look at it, say, hey, I now have more engineers. Hey, here is what we are working on. All right, great. Let's bring it out. And suddenly you start to see a timeline of like 9 months to bring something out. And you're scratching your head saying, that should take 9 months. And I'm not trying to make people work hard or like extra hard, but this shouldn't take 9 months. You try to get into the next level detail and you say, people have built in buffers to so-called cover their backside, which are just, so the first engineer built in the buffer, then the manager on the top built in one more buffer, the director on the top built in a buffer, and your direct reportee has suddenly built in a buffer, and it's like, all right. So we seem to have a buffer which is like 80% of this whole thing, which means it's cascading down in a very negative manner. While you want to say, hey, I don't really care about whether you finish it on time, but let's move fast. The system is just not moving fast because it's tuned for not to move fast because of something. Now, you don't know why it's not moving because you're asking people to say, all right, guys, this is important, let's go move fast. But they're not moving. One. Second, you're like, now we have 1,000 people. The excitement level in the company should be 5 times more. Like everybody should be buzzing. There is negativity, there is so-called politics, and then people are gossiping, and you get to hear it from, different sources that, people are saying this is why this decision happened. This. Say, no, but that's not the case. This is why I made that decision. Oh, well, they don't know this. And so suddenly, you're like, okay, there is something where, because if people know me, and if people know the core people who are making some large decisions, they should know that this is not how it works. Then you realize that, and that negativity and that change in environment again causes people to spend more time talking than working. So again, symptom. It's not the output of, and there could be few more, right? For example, you will suddenly see people trying to build empires. I need more people to do this. I need this, and those structures are very logical to question. By the way, when people come in and they build structures, they're very logical structures. But I think somewhere in that logical structure, what's missing is the spirit of movement. There is a spirit of structure versus spirit of movement. And there is a very interesting nuance between the two. People build structures are you building structure to move fast, or because you're unable to move fast, therefore you're building structure? And there is an interesting nuance to it, that your structure should be built so that you can move faster, and not because there is a right structure in the world. But then you realize that a lot more people are just focused on the structure, structure, and people are spending a lot of time on processes and saying, okay, hey, if you want this done, you must put it here, here, here. And you say, okay, why are you doing this? If all of these people should. So you start to see these conversations which are all about, we should have these kind of people in the room of this hierarchy. All directors and above should be invited for this. And you're like, okay, what is happening here? Like, we are just becoming a hierarchical organization. This is not hierarchy of org is not what makes the org hierarchical. It's the thought that should be hierarchical, right? If you're smarter than me, then you're smarter than me. You should be above me, not in terms of the where you sit in the org, but where you should be contributing at what level. But that's not happening. It's the title which are taking over. These are all symptoms. The solution to it may have been many, by the way. We thought the solution of this is you got to fix the culture. We tried many other things, by the way, like stupid things. We started monitoring. Like the first thing is to do more tactical stuff. We started monitoring. Okay, show me in engineering. Show me every detail plan, and you would cut out all the buffers. It doesn't work. How long? How long will you do it? You'll try to sit with the manager and say, okay, cut this time. You need, but you don't have that much insight. Right? When the systems become large, you don't know that much. So you got to step back and think about more fundamental solutions. And to me, we had to really look at and question: have we lost our mojo? And if we have, we got to bring it back. And for that, we did two massive things. By the way, we made culture as an important org, and we had it reported into the founders, separate from HR. And in fact, we took HR into founders' hands. Even today, one of our co-founders runs HR. And we have taken a vow to essentially be very closely associated with HR at any point of time. You can't be, it's not a hands-off thing. It is your most important thing. But I think the realization of it is the bigger piece. Once you realize it, because we have also heard the same. We've read in books to say, people are most important. Yeah, right. I also say it, but I won't act it. I think everybody has to go through their own, jolting experience to say, oh my God, I'm not going to grow anymore. So. I think one massive change which is happening is, which is why we launched the platform called Meep. Users don't like advertising. I hate advertising the way it is today. Can you build a big business, massive business, successful business on the things that users hate? No, you can't. So fundamentally somewhere there is a massive change in general which is happening to say, all right, we got to build advertising as if it were content. Yes, it's a commercial content, but the operative word there is not commercial. The operative word there is content. Can you actually create it in that way? So that's one massive change. The second massive change is, the mobile devices will essentially drive large amount of consumption of content. That's nothing new. But mobile devices are also giving you some things which nobody else has given, which is the mobile devices give you the ability to essentially close the transaction. That was not available that freely in any other medium, so let's utilize that. There is a change in user behavior also, by the way, when it comes to mobile, which is to say, hey, we are all used to long form content. We would sit, there'd be newspaper time and there would be a TV time. Not there anymore. People in today's youth essentially consumes content in snacking, in small bites, and they don't have patience. Like something's not good, boom, it goes away. So they're consuming content. They have about 4 to 5 seconds to consume something and they move on to the next one. So you have to content, by the way, has evolved to become that way. Advertising hasn't. So somewhere, you have to make advertising as clean as snacking and as useful. And all of those are massive changes at which we are working. Meep platform is one dimension of that. I think mobile advertising is a huge space. It's roughly about $250 billion market by 2019, 2020. There are only few players in the world that will get a share of that, $250 billion pie. I think we'll be one of them. And so, we have to, and in order to capture that share of the pie, people have to think fundamentally about it. And they cannot continue with the same old advertising models applied in a miniaturized screen of, mobile. Like if you think about it, what we have done, we've taken the billboards, shrunk them down to a little ones and put them here. That doesn't work. And so I think my advertising will go through massive changes. Innovation. Look, a large part of this is always about constant product innovation, which is why the earlier point and so much discussion on culture, because if you don't do innovation, constant innovation, you won't be able to do it. That's one. Second is to move aggressively into the markets, right? So we are a global player. We essentially put out a global bet because, things which are internet driven becomes very hard for them to be successful only in one market, unless that market has a language barrier or some other kind of barrier. So therefore, a global play becomes imperative for, and there are very strong network effect reasons on why, global businesses in internet will be required, unless you can come up with a different reason why they should be verticalized. There are not many strong reasons of why advertising shouldn't be a global business. And thirdly, the internet businesses are winner take most markets, and so therefore there will be few players only. You can't have too many players in general in that. I think there are 2-3 levels at which I'll talk about it. Like, one is it's not as hard as one imagines it to be, right? And so first of all, you have to lower the barrier that you have to cross in order to essentially go for international markets. A lot of people kind of have this, voodoo kind of a thing to say, oh my God, I'll never be able to do this. I don't think that's true. I think second is you got to know what's the reason why you're getting into the other market. Is it pure revenue expansion? Then you shouldn't do it. But if you think the reason why you can enter a different market is because you have strong IP, whether technology, product, or data that you can leverage to essentially get into the next market, then you should do it. You cannot just put people and then say, okay, I'm going to capture market. That's a very capital intensive business. Most of the entrepreneurs today are building technology-led internet businesses, which means that you should be able to get into the next market because of some kind of IP that you have. And so therefore, you should know what that IP is. And if that IP is strong, if it's not strong, then don't do it. If it's really strong and you're one of the best out there, then move ultra fast. Because, internet businesses, move very quickly. And so therefore, if you're thinking about global markets, and if your business has no specific market-centric barriers, then you must go global, because it becomes really hard to build a country-centric business model if the barriers are low.